Hi, my name is Kenton Koch.
And I'm Elliot Skeer.
We're members of the Formula SAE team at Cal State Fullerton,
as well as Mazda development drivers.
and we're here to teach you the do's and don'ts of how to conduct an interview,
Everything from eye contact and body posture.
to sponsorship placement and how to act professional.
So let's get started.
How does one get started in racing?
Go-karts. Now, the correct way to answer that question would be, well, the easiest way that a child could get into motorsports would be through a sport like karting. Now, if they're a little bit older, you could try something like the Skip Barber Racing School, where then they could just jump right past the go-karting and get right into some sort of vehicle.
Talk about, you're balancing engineering and racing. What are you learning what are you taking from engineering to apply to the track, and what have you learned at the track that's helping you in your engineering studies?
Well, I'm just being so overloaded right now that I'm actually failing my engineering class, and so I've got to figure that out. Because education's important, but racing's importanter. So I'm just going to keep going with that. And the right way to answer that would be, well, it's a struggle to be with both, but it's one of those things where you have to learn balance. Whether it's in the race car, you have to get the car perfectly balanced. Also with your life, you have to have it all balanced. So. I'm working hard at both getting the engineering classes done, which I'm doing at a pretty good rate right now, so I'm happy with that, and also prepping for the next race. So you got to have more of a business mindset of you got to get both jobs done, and that's really the only way to succeed right now.
What made you pick Cal State Fullerton for engineering?
Well, first of all, the Formula SAE team here is awesome. I know coming into this place I was going to learn a lot from the engineering folks here, and I was going to be able to apply that to my racing efforts. And then the wrong answer would be, well, it was the closest to my house, and it was cheap, and it was cheap.
What steps do you take in the off-season to prepare for next season?
Well, the things that you kind of would want to do in the off-season is obviously you want to stay in shape for racing. Racing requires you to be at your top peak of your physical condition, and some things that I like to do is obviously I like to go to the gym, and obviously something that you could be doing is also playing video games, because video games actually helps with your hand-eye coordination, so that can help you also in the car. And then for the not so good with sentence fillers, you would want to say something, well, you wouldn't want to say something like racing is kind of physical, but it's really easy to get a hold of in preparing for yourself in the next season. So what you would want to do for next season would be go to the gym or play video games, maybe something like Gran Turismo or GTA or some of these other ones. In the last example, you don't want to use sentence fillers like or, because it makes you seem less intelligent on what you're actually answering. As a driver, it's really important to know who your sponsors are, and as you're giving an interview, to make sure you know what your backdrop is. If you are giving an interview, me as a Mazda Motorsports development driver, you kind of want to make sure there's no Porsche logos, BMW logos behind you as you're doing a logo, because that can kind of be conflicting with what you're doing. Let's say we're giving an interview at Cal State Fullerton, and there's a USC flag in the background. That's kind of conflicting, so it makes you look extremely bad if you're not looking around before you do your interview what you have in the background. As a driver, it's important to keep yourself looking professional and acting professional. It's important to have yourself be as calm as possible, talking to them as if nothing happened. Make sure you don't blame the others or blame yourself. Make sure to just stay calm and state exactly what happened. It's important to keep in mind who you're talking to in an interview. If you're talking to a local news reporter or a motorsports interviewer, you need to basically analyze their level of expertise. And if you're talking to someone who's maybe not as into the sport you're in, you might have to be able to, without being condescending, explain to them in a little bit more simple aspect of your world, of what you're in. And maybe if you're talking to a motorsports analyst, you can talk a little bit more in depth because they know a lot more about what you're talking about. It's important to keep in mind who you're talking to in an interview. If you're talking to a local news reporter or a motorsports interviewer, you need to basically analyze their level of expertise. And if you're talking to someone who's maybe not as into the sport you're in, you might have to be able to, without being condescending, explain to them in a little bit more simple aspect of your world, of what you're in. And maybe if you're talking to a motorsports analyst, you can talk a little bit more in depth because they know a lot more about what you're talking about. When you're at the track, try to use your time wisely. You're going to be there and driving for only about 2 hours, and you're going to be at the track for probably about 10 hours. So make sure to use your time wisely, not playing video games. Try and go to talk to people that can possibly get you more opportunities in the future.